All right, and we're still on page 8. We're still on page 8. We're still dividing, but these are some mixed practice problems where it's not just dividing, it's kind of combining all the rules into one problem. But as long as you do things in order, it shouldn't be that bad. You got to make sure you do things in order, and I'll point out what the order should be. All right, let's look at number 15 at the bottom of page 8. Now, number 15, you've got division, but you've also got a power. You should always do outside powers first. So we got to do this 2 right here first. So the top stays the same. We're not going to do anything to that yet. All right. But on the bottom, what is 4 to the power of 2? Remember, the rules of exponents don't apply to the numbers in front. That's going to be 4 to the power of 2 is 16, but you are going to multiply the exponents times 2. W2, V2. Now, when you divide, you're going to reduce the 12 over 16. That reduces by 4, so that's going to be 3/4. Now, what about the W's? 9 minus 2, that's 7. 4 minus 2 is 2. So that's the answer, simplified answer to number 15. All right, let's flip it over. I don't have time to do all of these. We're going to do number 19 next. Now, this one, like I said, do outside exponents first. Now, actually, you could break the rule because you could reduce the inside, but I'm going to be consistent. Do the outside exponent first. Now, this outside exponent applies to the top and the bottom. Notice how this is in parentheses. That square applies to the top and the bottom. So 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is 25. Now, we got to multiply all these exponents together. That's a 1. That's going to be A2, B4 on the top. And then A2, B2 on the bottom. 16 over 25 does not reduce. All right, that stays 16 25ths. Now, what happens when you subtract on the A's? You get A to the 0. You can just cross those out. 4 minus 2, that's B to the 2. So there's your simplified answer, 16B2 over 25. All right, 21. There are no outside exponents. There are no outside exponents. So what order should you do this in? Well, you should multiply these 2 together first, then do the division. 2 times 3 is 6. Now, what do you do when you multiply? Do you remember what you do when you multiply? What's below multiply? Add. So you're going to add these exponents together. That's P1, P2, that's P3. Q1, Q4, that's Q5. And then negative 6PQ to the 5th on the bottom. Now, what does 6 over negative 6 reduce to? You're dividing. That's negative 1. All right. And then when you divide, what do you do the exponents when you divide? You subtract. So 3 minus 1, that's going to be P2. The Q5s are gone. Cross those out. That's 0. So it's just negative P squared is the final answer. Now, 25 is complicated. All right. I don't see, there are no outside exponents. So we'll multiply these together first, then we'll divide. If they're like terms, then we'll be able to subtract. But let's see what you get on the top. 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. C1, C4, that's C5. Add the exponents. D3, there's no D over there, so it stays D3. And then it's over 6C squared D minus 9C3D squared. All right, so you multiplied, now divide. What's negative 24 divided by 6? I believe that's negative 4. Then you subtract the exponents. 5 minus 2 is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. Now, are you allowed to subtract these? Yes, they are like terms. So let's see. What's a negative 4 minus 9? That's negative 13. Negative 13. Wait a minute. That should be a C. That's a C, not an A. That's a C. So C3, D2. Okay. Now, number 27. This one's really complicated. In fact, let's stick with number 27. You've got outside exponents. You got to do those first. Then you got multiply, then divide, then subtract. So do the outside exponents first, then you're going to multiply, then you're going to divide, then you're going to subtract, and that's only if they're like terms. So that's the order. Now let's do the outside exponents first. I'm going to keep the parentheses because I still have to multiply. What's 2 to the power of 3? 8. M2 times, that's multiply, that's M2 to the power of 3, that's M6. All right, what's 3 to the power of 3? That's 27. And multiply the exponents together, that's going to be N12. And that's going to be 9 M4 N7 on the bottom. That's still minus 18 M squared into the fifth. The next step, we did the outside. Now you got to multiply. What is 27 times 8? I'm not sure. 27 times 8, it's 56. Carry the 5. It's 16 and 5. It's 216. 216. There's not an M and not an N, so that's when you put those together, it's just going to be M6 N12. You can't add those exponents together because that's an M and that's an N. Over 9 M4 N7 minus 18 M squared into the fifth. Now you divide, all right? I don't know what 216 divided by 9 is. Let's figure that out. 9 into 216. 9 goes into 21 twice. That's minus 18, 36, 24. So 216 divided by 9 is 24. Subtract the exponents. That's M2. 12 minus 7, that's 5. Are you going to be able to subtract these? The answer is yes. Those are like terms. 24 minus 18 is 6. M squared into the fifth. That's the final answer for number 27. That had everything in it. That had everything in it. So you got to be careful and make sure you do things in the right order.